FragPunk put out a tiny patch today, but it may pack the biggest punch yet. Hey guys, Nightfall here, and today FragPunk issued a lot of updates on the game, including a very nice patch that may surprise you. And I think this might even bring back a few players that dropped the game before they ever really gave it a chance. But before we jump right into the patch notes, let's jump into something that's arguably even a little bit better than patch notes: cheaters. From March 10th through the 16th, they banned 3,323 cheaters, and while that may not seem like a lot, you have to take into account how many players actually play this game and it not being readily available on console yet. I absolutely love seeing these graphics. It just gives me the tinglies deep down, and I just wish they would show the full name so we can accurately berate these weirdos on Twitter or wherever. Siege has no problem displaying your whole name live in game for everyone to see when you get banned. So let's just do that. But now the question remains, if these were people who played in ranked, which surely they were, because if you're only cheating and playing in unranked, you're kind of extra weird for that. But do people get their ranked points back that they lost if they were playing against cheaters? Probably not, but we absolutely should. And there's a lot of mystery that shrouds ranked, including who you can even play with. Like, what's the lowest or highest rank I can play with as a gold 5? If you know the answer to that, let me know down in the comments so I'm not just completely ignorant. I may have missed it somewhere, but I've checked in game and I don't see anything that tells me that. But I want to point out something really fast before we jump into patch notes. Looking at the player count charts in that same time frame from March 10th to March 16th, we can see there have been probably an average of about 85-ish thousand players playing the game at any given time. So that means if they ban 3,323 cheaters, loading up into any game, you had about a 4% chance of playing with or against a cheater. That's higher odds than your best shot at getting this damn sword. Do we see the problem here? Just an observation. But let's go ahead and get into these patch notes, because we got some spicy stuff to go over with these. So let's just get right into it. We'll start off with some weapon balancing. First up is the Bad Moon S damage was increased to 48 damage from 45 damage in the 0 to 15 meter range. And if you're like me and still not 100% on which weapon that is, this is the Bad Moon S. It's one of the marksman rifles, and I'll finish their patch note for them since they seemingly left off one of the most important parts. It's the body damage that was increased from 45 to 48. Limb shots still do 45, and not sure why this change, as it still takes 4 shots to kill someone who's full health by shooting them in the limbs or the body, but I agree that a body shot should do more than shooting someone's leg. So next up is the burner, and that's this sidearm here, and they reduced the number of incendiary bombs that you get down from 2 to 1. And they also optimized the explosion sound effects of it by increasing the volume of just the whole thing, which is just what we needed, louder things in game. But I suppose this does make it more of a dual threat now. Not only can you cut off an area for area denial, but you could then use it to maybe suppress footsteps, which are still abysmally loud. Now let's get into the Lancer updates, and first up is Jaguar and his I Can See for Miles skill, which has now been adjusted to be more lore accurate, and now he can actually see a bit further. Maybe not miles, but he can now see 25 meters instead of 10. Then they changed Corona and his Hothead ability, which is the one that just blinds people like a flashbang, and that's been adjusted from the range from 15 to 30 meters, which kind of makes sense. But my issue with his ability was never the range, but rather the time in which they're stunned. Really think they should have focused on that and increased that instead by maybe like a half a second or so. But as somebody who doesn't play Corona unless I have to, not really upset at this. Then we have Nitro, and they optimized the placement area for her wall. Not sure what exactly that means, but we'll have to play to find out. Now we get to the general changes, and this one here might be the most controversial change in the entire game. They increased overall movement speed. And I was just saying a few days ago how I was getting used to the speed that we had now, and then they went and changed it. In the beta, we could move decently well, and we all know by now that they nerfed it into the ground, with the overall speeds being one of those casualties. They said they reduced it by 10%, but it definitely felt like way more than 10%. Weirdly enough, they don't tie a percentage to how much they increased it by, so this will just have to be another one of those feel it out changes. They also optimized audio effects of footsteps. Again, no idea what that means, gonna have to jump in game to find out, but footsteps, especially teammate footsteps, have been way too damn loud. So I'm hoping they turn this down by a nice chunk, and maybe enemy footsteps as well, because there's no way, even if they're running, then I should be hearing somebody through 3 different walls. The last general change here is that they disabled the option to hide your name from other players so that they can investigate, which just means catch more cheaters, and I'm okay with this. I get some people, maybe streamers, creators, have maybe wanted to hide their name from other players or something so they don't get stream sniped, but this is for the better. Now, moving down to the shard card adjustments, the first one we see is the big head card, and they reduce the magnification multiplier, meaning heads are still big, just not as big as they once were. Is it still worth 5 shard points though, is the question. Depending on how big, I think the next patch they might need to adjust that as well. The next card they changed is Death's Embrace, and they increased it from 3 to 4, and this card basically spawns a Reaper that slashes you from behind when you take some damage, and even though it's a little slow, I 100% agree with this. This card was an absolute steal at 3 points. And there's one thing you might notice is that the points at the top of this card still haven't changed. These screenshots I took in-game post-update, so at the very least, maybe they just forgot to update the card art in the shard card tab. Let's hope they actually made these changes in-game. The next card is AG Triggers, and they increased this card from 4 to 5 points. This card just makes you shoot your gun every 5 seconds, and that can result in some pretty hilarious kills, but ultimately gives your position away, so probably should be a 5-point card. Next one is Eagle Eyes, and they increased it from 2 to 3. Again, totally on board with this change, as you're basically outlining all enemies within line of sight for a few seconds, which would then lead to temporary walls as they run away behind a wall. But the biggest thing here is this also includes stealth enemies like Zephyr, which is my main. So you know I hate this card with a fucking passion. Last card getting a shard point change is the Painful Motivation, and they reduced it from 4 down to 2. And I still don't think I'll be picking this card. I mean, you're basically just spending your hard-earned shard points to turn on friendly fire. Actually, no, never mind. No. Don't be toxic. Don't let the intrusive thoughts win. Don't pick this card. Then finally, last but absolutely not least, they nerfed the Goodest Boys, and they dropped its health down from 130 HP down to 50. Sad times we live in. Now you can basically almost one-shot these little puppies, and they're just not the tank that they were a couple days ago. One change to the Outbreak mode in these patch notes, they temporarily removed the Lancer Spider from being playable in this mode, and if you've played this mode for anything more than, I don't know, 10 seconds, you'll understand immediately why. Then we finish off with some bug fixes, which I won't read all of these, but I'll leave them on screen here for just a moment. But the most notable one here is the Return to Sender card wasn't working when interrupting the defuse process. So there you have it. There's your patch notes. The glaring miss here is all the audio issues that we've been having recently, and at least they do have a temporary fix that they sent out to everyone's mailbox in-game. And they say just going into your settings, tabbing over to audio, and toggling the option for keep audio playing in the background. So you just turn this option off and on, or on and then back off again, depending on however you normally have it set, and that should do the trick. I haven't tried it, but let me know if that works for you. Normally, I've had to just reset the whole audio settings page and restart my game a few times. It's very frustrating, especially when you're in the middle of a ranked game and it stops. So let's just hope this fix actually works. But that's all the patch notes. Key takeaway is probably going to be the movement speed. Can't wait to see how that plays out. And I'll probably be live here on YouTube tonight starting around 7 Eastern time if you want to come hang out. Maybe help me climb the ranked ladder because solo grinding is an absolute bitch. But until then, keep breaking the rules, and I'll catch you in the next one.